Finally, it happened. I saw BYD was written in my inbox, and I found that they have now released their pricing for the BYD Seal. So what does this mean for Australian pricing? Let's take a look at that. Even the UK as well. We'll go over European prices just a little bit. So we'll go over the models and specs and pricing. Before I get into it, thank you very much for watching. I'm really hoping to build up the channel to much bigger than what it is now, so remember to press the subscribe button for me. My name is Ben Alexander and I make videos every single day about EV news from around the world. So remember, before you leave as well, let me know your thoughts on this in the comments. Those of you that watch often will remember there was a bit of a discussion in one of my recent videos where I talked about the new BYD Seal being a kind of competitor to the Tesla Model 3. Obviously, really quite obvious to put them side by side and compare them. But what will obviously make a difference to the sales is if it's an enticing price, of course. So BYD have sold millions of cars worldwide. They know how to price their cars clearly. But they haven't always been a global car company, so they are a bit new to this level of competition. So pricing their cars around the world is a bit new to them, kind of, but they are a successful business run by experienced business leaders. These people do know how to think about pricing quite well. So BYD do make really good cars. They really, really do. And if you haven't been in one, just go test drive one, because you will be surprised if you don't know what to expect. Just at the level of refinement that they have achieved, it's really quite remarkable. The Model 3 is a very appealing package, and that's why they sell so many. So what BYD have offered is basically the same thing, but with a BYD badge on it, and it looks more like a BYD. So it is hard to actually compete because Tesla are actually very unique. The whole design and the supercharger network is unique to Tesla, of course, but it's basically the same thing, isn't it? The Tesla Model 3, the BYD Seal, similar specs, similar range, similar size. So that's why they get compared so much. Right now, you can go and buy the Tesla Model 3, the base version, here in Brisbane for 57,400 Australian dollars. So that's about 45,970 euros. If you go into the Netherlands Tesla website, for example, or in Norway. In Norway, it is 369,990. So that is actually 32,000 euro if you live in Norway. They don't have any import tax on EVs in Norway, so it is a lot cheaper to buy an EV there. The BYD Seal was just released in China 3 weeks ago, and the cheapest is the dynamic variant that comes with a 61.4 kilowatt hour battery, which is compared to Tesla's 61. That has a WLTP range of 450 kilometers, which is close to Tesla. In Tesla's 61 kilowatt hour battery, slightly smaller, can achieve 491 WLTP kilometers. So the Tesla has a very low drag coefficient. Basically, it slips through the air better. And I ran a quick poll today as well, just to ask. So far, 100% of you think it will be cheaper than a Tesla. And I'm afraid to say it, but it isn't looking this way. The converted price without shipping to Australia is actually converted at $61,000 Australian dollars for the cheapest version, compared to Tesla's 57,400 here in Australia. So there is actually two higher specs for the BYD Seal as well. The extended range, basically the same one, big battery, 68,800 converted to Australian. And the all-wheel drive, which is basically the big battery, but two motors, that one is 74,600. So in euros, the three prices are 36,300, and that's the cheapest one, 41,000 euro, 44,600 euro. That's for the top spec one. So the way it works is that the company called EV Direct is set up as the BYD local distributor in Australia. It was a company set up by a bloke called Luke Todd, who's recently sold 90% of the company to another company. I think it was something like $70 million. He still owns some of the company, about 10%. He still runs it. But what they have to do now is work out the cost to buy them from BYD and then pay the import costs and decide on the onshore price in Australia. So they may end up being even higher than the Chinese prices, but also could be lower if they just decide to be nice. However, I do suspect that they won't do that, having seen the other car releases and observed their pricing structures and the way they've dealt with it. So, for example, the BYD Dolphin was said to be cheaper than it currently is. The Queensland rebate went up from $3,000 to $6,000, and so did the price of the BYD Dolphin. Not at the same time, there was a few months in it, but I suspect that was going in. They're trying to take more of that money away from, from the customer's benefit because they can, and I guess a customer still feels like they're getting a good deal if you're still managing to get 6,000 off of the list price. But if the list price just goes up at the same rate of the rebate, when that increases, you're not actually gaining anything, but you do feel like you're gaining something. So I think that's what's going on. I think they knew that was happening. They did know what they were doing, and I think they're aware of the supply and demand in Australia, the extreme lack of EVs. There was actually so much demand for the BYD when they arrived in Australia that the only way to get a test drive was to place an order first, which is $1,000 in Australia. So, which is, in my book, that's just wrong. So I'd never go for that. They may have had no cars to actually let you test drive, but why, if you place an order, does a vehicle suddenly become available to someone who no longer needs convincing to buy the product? And they have no incentive to try and want to sell to you at that point because they have your money already. So I know that they will have to lower their prices as more EVs arrive in Australia. That's just that is going to happen. And wherever else they try to sell their cars, they are getting much more common these days. So just like Tesla, they will need to be lowering their cars in price. Otherwise, they simply won't sell as many because there'll be much more populated market at the bottom of vehicles that you can go buy, and they will be doing the maths on the sales at different prices. So if you're thinking to go buy one, maybe go for the cheapest BYD Seal, because I think that offers the best value and the best range, and I think it's fantastic. I really, really do. But if you have the money and you really want to, you want the extra range, get the big one. Also, the next video I think will be about the new rules that are likely to be pushed through in Australia, so that they will tax you for every kilometre you drive, not just like they do in Victoria, but all over Australia. Also, I'm sorry that today's video is a bit late. I a little bit ADHD, and I was meant to be filming and editing a video for you, and I ended up riding around on a silly little folding clown bike with 12-inch wheels for no reason at all. So that's why my video's late. Apologise for that. Thank you very much to the people that have also chosen to support me on Patreon, YouTube memberships, buy me a coffee. It is really, really appreciated. They're about $3 each, and the link will be below in the description. So if you enjoyed the video, please consider clicking the like button for me and subscribing so that YouTube know people really, 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 really enjoy my videos.